Yes, yes, guys. You know what time it is. You know what it is. It's G, and we're back in the damn building. Yes, guys, we are here with another Scout Watch, and today we're going to be taking a look at South American defender Piero Hincapie. Um, Left-sided centre back, plays for Bayern Leverkusen, obviously over there in the Bundesliga. Currently playing under Xabi Alonso, and if I'm being honest, ever since Xabi Alonso kind of came in, he I don't want to say taking his game to the next level, but he's definitely, you know, playing a lot better, playing a lot better, But I think that's more a byproduct of Xabi Alonso because the whole team is actually playing a lot better, especially this season. They've started quite decently as well in the Bundesliga for this season. Obviously, recently won their last game 3-0. They're moving in the right direction, playing under Xabi Alonso, his kind of expansive, build up play and possession based football kind of thing. I think they're doing pretty well. And his Hinsape himself, he's got a lot of suitors, and I think quite a lot of teams, around Europe are looking at this, especially him, left-sided centre back. We already know those are like hot commodity, in today's football. So it's quite interesting, to see that Liverpool might potentially be in for him. We all know that we all need a left-sided centre back, but then again, we're not the only ones who need and want a left-sided centre back, and it's hard to find really good ones because most of the good ones are actually unavailable, which we'll obviously take a look at in today's video. But without further ado, let's start the stream and let's get into Hinsape and see what he's all about.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
So yes. Looking at Piero Hinsape, guys, please make sure, if you could smash that like button, please make sure you share, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're on the road to 900 subscribers. It's been a crazy journey, ever since my first video up till now. We've really evolved in terms of the content that we're kind of putting out. There's a lot of you that I rock with. You guys already know who you are, and if you're brand new to the channel, make sure you just hit that subscribe button, man. Make sure you just hit that, and hopefully we can all vibes together. Hopefully we can all vibes together. But obviously today I want to take a look, obviously, at Hinsape. Good. I think he's a decent player. It's going to be interesting when taking a look at how he compares to his peers and things like that. But I think he's a decent player. He's a decent player. As I mentioned before, obviously about the whole LFC news and stuff like that. This was posted out by the Anfield Talk via Lynch. Piero Hincapie has been watched by Liverpool, and the defender would jump at the opportunity to move to England. While there have been suggestions of a high price tag, it is thought that it could be pushed down should a move be firmed up by Liverpool. Now, we all know Liverpool are Watch FC, alongside quite a few other clubs, to be fair, but we're, in terms of being a Liverpool fan, watching how many players were supposedly in for, linked with, and etc. One of the things that I find interesting about Hinsape is that he recently signed a new deal. I think this was back in February of this year. So obviously, prior to that new deal, I think quite a few clubs actually would have potentially bidded for him, and he may have already have left Bayern Leverkusen, if I'm being 100% honest with you. That was my feeling, because once I found out that he had actually, signed a new deal, that was the interesting part, because then it made me think, all right, well, if he's already signed a new deal, is it going to be that easy to kind of prize him away? They signed him to a new deal, not because, obviously, to help with the price tag and stuff like that. Let's not be silly. But at the same time, one of the main things as well was because they actually trusted him, because they actually felt that, he had been doing, reasonably well, if I'm being 100% honest with you, So that was for me anyway, one of the main reasons as to why, they decided to, sign him to a new deal. I mean, he joined Leverkusen back in 2021. Before that, he was playing. I'm taking a quick look here. I mean, before that, he was playing for a team called Talares, and then obviously Independe del Valle. Those are the kind of teams that he was playing for before he even moved to Bayern Leverkusen. He's got 27 caps for Ecuador at the moment, but he wasn't like he was, a hot commodity, and he was doing his thing like in terms of out there in Europe. Maybe the ones who really do watch South American football and stuff like that. Shout out Michael Talks. He probably knew about him, a few seasons ago, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say he was in the European side in terms of radar. I don't think it was on that many people's radar. But obviously, Bayern Leverkusen, they've obviously taken a chance on him back in 21. And ever since then, I feel like he's just gone from strength to strength to strength. And first season for Bayern Leverkusen, got himself 33 appearances, and then obviously last season and the 22-23 season, just gone, got 43 appearances. So and then we're moving on to this season. So clearly it's all about the stages with him. It's all about the stages, with someone like him. But let's take a look, obviously, at a bit more statistical stuff, with him. What kind of makes him tick? Why is he, touted as this great player, and stuff like that. When we're taking a look here, you guys can obviously see the positions he kind of takes up. Again, like I mentioned, Liverpool obviously looking for that left-sided centre back, but also, of course, someone who can slot into that left back role. It is quite interesting because this is why I say about the whole who do Liverpool want to sign and why things are so confusing, with everything, is because unfortunately with Liverpool and a Jurgen Klopp and stuff like that, you don't really know what type of player he wants, even if he wants someone in that position. So we all, we would probably all sit here and say, Liverpool need a DM. Okay, cool. What type of DM do you want then? Because you're being linked with every single type of DM that you can possibly think about. And then you go out and sign Endo, a guy who can obviously slot in at centre back, can play that defensive midfield role. But then what do you want as well? Because then you sign someone like a McAllister. Again, what Liverpool are really good at is they don't sign specialists, so to speak. They don't sign people who, that's his position, that's it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, even if you look at the team, I mean, Salah might be the only Salah. Obviously, Kanate can't play anywhere else. I'm not going to count the goalkeeper because that's the goalkeeper. Robbo. The front players can kind of all play everywhere, bar obviously Salah. The midfielders play kind of everywhere. Even the Szoboszlai, McAllister, again, it's like they're players who can play in different positions. Like, well, I mean, Szoboszlai predominantly played right wing last season. Do you get what I mean? And then now he's playing obviously in the central midfield. McAllister can play in the six. He can obviously be in the double pivot, but he can play in the six. And he can play obviously as an 8 as well, can play in that number 10 role, so yeah, it's very rare that I'll find that Liverpool will go out and sign these specialists, so to speak. So when we then talk about the left-sided centre-back position, that's where I'm also like, okay, what type of left-sided centre-back? Because if you're asking for someone who can play left-sided centre-back, but then also be able to play left wing-back when we need him to play left wing-back, it might not be the same result as you would get if you had, say, an Andrew Robertson there in the first place. That's why it is a little bit difficult for me sometimes when I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't really know in regards to, what type of left-sided centre-back do fans anyway, do they necessarily want? Because maybe the one that we want might not be necessarily the right one, because then we have to remember the type of role that this individual is then going to be doing. It might not be the same kind of role. If you guys kind of catch my drift. So that's why it is a little bit like, what do you need? And then obviously you can see, playing left back 39% of the time. Again, what is it you're going to be asking of them? Everyone talks about the Inacio, the Luque, but these are all players that I do like. But what I'm slowly starting to understand, with Jurgen Klopp, something I didn't understand at the beginning of the window, is it's almost like he's not getting anyone specific, but he wants a specific type of individual. But that player isn't necessarily going to be doing a specific role, so to speak. So they're not going to just be that left-sided centre back. They're not going to just be that left back, as an example. They need to be quite specific in what it is that they can kind of do. And to be honest, the main key thing is obviously being a very, very versatile individual. There's nothing wrong with versatility. I don't have a problem with it. And you should have you should have players in your team who are versatile, so to speak. But when I mean versatile, it's more, yeah, I can put him in that position, but that's not his best position type of thing. I kind of prefer that. It's, oh, if we have to put him in that position, then we will. Whereas I feel like we're always trying to look for a guy like, nah, he can play left wing and right wing, or nah, he can play centre back plus left wing, but he can play in the six, but in the eight, in the 10th. Like, why can't we just sign someone who can play in the six? Why can't you just sign someone who can play in the eight? Why can't you sign someone who, those are the kind of things, that I look at. And again, that's something that I think, Jurgen Klopp might probably just be looking at, so to speak. This is obviously Hincapie's heat map for the season. This is obviously last season, as I said before, covering over there on that left hand side. It's just more of a, would I say, heat visualization of what I just showed a minute ago in terms of the positionings that he takes up. But you can see, how predominantly he is on that side, and you can also see how far he kind of, gets himself up and further, up the pitch, just above that halfway line. Again, will he be asked if he played for Liverpool? Will he be asked to potentially be bombing up like Robbo has been doing, for Liverpool? Is because if so, then we will 100% know that it was never to do with Robbo, so to speak. It was always to do with Klopp and the tactics, and that's where I think it lies. Mostly, not all of it, but I think mostly it lies there. That if the manager's telling you to do something, you're only going to keep trying to execute that. So we're going to keep getting onto you because we can see, in certain stages it's not really working. But at the same time, that's where we, you got to start looking at the manager and, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, man, I think it is one of those things. And obviously, as I mentioned, versatility, playing centre back, playing left back as well, or left sided centre back. He can fill in these roles, whether it's in a 2, whether it's in a 3. He's someone who can obviously. And I think one thing I've noticed with someone like Hincapie as well is that watching him play, but then also taking a look, in terms of the scouting wise, when you're looking at him and you're watching like certain videos, he's good at kind of doing both jobs in terms of whether he needs to be that kind of progressor in that back 3 when he is playing there. Sometimes he will even play that left wing back position. Again, he's so comfortable playing in those areas. And I'm not even going to gas it and say that I feel he's comfortable, obviously, in wide areas. Of course he is, because he can play, obviously, that left wing back position. It's more, obviously, again, we have to look at the defending side of things. When he is in those positions, he's like a Konate. That's the only thing that worries me about him. Obviously, we'll get into it and we'll take a look at certain things, but that's kind of what worries me a little bit about Hincapie, is that I almost feel like you're better on the ball, of course, than a Konate. Better ball controller. You can obviously punch these passes into the midfield. You can progress the ball really, really well. You're good at your carrying the ball and stuff like that. I feel like you're better than a Konate at doing so, or just more comfortable at doing so. I don't get the, oh my goodness, he looks awkward. He looks absolutely fine, and I feel like he is fine when he's actually doing it. But you're just like Konate in terms of the defending. This is a guy who's got loads of cards in his career, loads and loads and loads of cards. We'll take a look anyway. We'll take a look actually at his last season at Bayern Leverkusen here. Let's get this up. Yep, you guys can see it. So we'll take a look. I mean, this is, by the way, I said he joined in 2021. By the way, yeah, he joined Bayern Leverkusen in 2021. Look how many yellow cards this brother has got. Crazy. I've got 14 yellow cards. 1 straight red, and then obviously 2 that were like second yellow kind of thing. That's crazy. He's got 3 in the Europa League, the Copa de la Liga. He had 2. The Copa Sudamericana, he had 2. Champions League, he's got 3. Brother, he's got 3 yellow cards. He's played 5 games in the Champions League. That's strikers will be looking at for that kind of conversion rate. That's how crazy that is. Like, that's so mad. That's actually so mad. Like I said, he's a bit of a hothead. He's a bit of a hothead. Do you know what I mean? So it would just kind of depend on what type of individual that you don't mind having. Shall I say what you don't mind having? And that's where I feel maybe someone like Klopp might potentially be looking at that and thinking, don't know about all of that, especially with the new rules that we've got in the Premier League and stuff like that. I don't know about all of that. I don't know. I like Hincapie. I really do like Hincapie, but these are small little things that you have to just look at. Unfortunately, these are things that you just have to kind of look at. Obviously, you can see last season, left centre back or left-sided centre back. He played 24 times, played 12 times as a left back slash left wing back, and then obviously left midfield slash left wing back. I think both are kind of roughly the same thing, just depends on whether they're using a three at the back, four or five in the midfield. He kind of can slot into all of those kind of positions, which again is really, really good. For him, obviously got himself 1 goal and 1 assist in 43 appearances last season. But again, as I mentioned before, it is obviously the bookings. Just zoom in for you guys here. It is the bookings that you guys can obviously see. Yeah, that's where it's going to be a bit of a problem. Gonna definitely be, a little bit of a problem. So again, like I mentioned, it will just be interesting to see. Let's even look at his previous season in the 21-22. Let's see what that was actually looking like in terms of discipline-wise. I mean, a little bit better, less games, obviously. Just joining in that 33 games, 6 yellow cards. Luckily, he didn't get no reds. He had 2 goals and 1 assist in that season. So again, keeps himself, I'm hoping, quite fit. We're going to look together at this one here, whether he's a player who can obviously keep himself relatively fit. The injury history. Let's take a look. Cool. That's really, really good. Very, very short. Didn't even have to scroll down. He only missed 1 game so far. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. Sometimes I always feel like again, don't take this as gospel. There probably is going to be someone out there saying, "Nah, he got injured better times." Maybe so. Sometimes I always think with transfer markets, a little bit, you just got to be careful with it. But here it's obviously showing up as 1 game missed. And you can even see the current rumors anyway is Liverpool are 68% a possibility of a transfer, which is quite interesting, as well. But again, that was just me just trying to show you the stats and stuff like that in terms of his performances last season. Now, let's actually take a look at his actual stats in metric form. So you guys can obviously see that. I want to make sure it's nice, and there we go. Cool. So obviously you can see here, these are the players that by the way, he's being compared with in the centre back role, because he can also play fullback. He will also be compared with some fullbacks, and obviously we can take a little look at that as well. So you got Ethan Ampadu, Jesus Christ, Matteo Darmian, Lenglet, and Waldemada, Anton, Alexandro, Pierre Kalulu, Trevor Chalobah, Tapsoba, Schlotterbeck, and Bicao. That is the top 10 players that they say he's quite similar to. So obviously this is the centre backs that we're looking at. Anything that kind of really sticks out for me, obviously, as I mentioned before, progressive carries. He's ranked in the 98th percentile, around Europe. Progressive passes, obviously, see tackles, really, really good. He makes 2.27 per game, ranked in the 89th percentile. Interceptions not really that high, but I mean, he's still making 1.23 per game anyway. But in terms of overall, yeah, it's all right. Blocks 1.36. Clearances he's making so crazy. That shows you how many clearances these centre backs are actually making. But he makes 2.92, just under 3 clearances per game, and he's ranked in the 18th percentile, which is crazy. Aerial duels 1, is that another area that Jurgen Klopp might potentially be looking at? Is that something that he wants to potentially focus on with his defenders, being able to win these aerial duels? I mean, he's winning just over 2 per game. Is that good? Is that bad? Depending on how you want to kind of, compare it, so to speak. His pass completion rate, 83.3%. I would have thought that's good, but it only ranks in the 40th percentile. So it just depends on how you necessarily see that kind of thing. And obviously, this is against other fullbacks around Europe. Obviously, fullbacks, I kind of expect it to be, as I thought so. So you can see, obviously, as I mentioned, 2.0, 2.01, just over 2 aerial duels 1. But for a fullback, that would be really, really good, because fullbacks don't really always win those. Clearances, obviously, he's ranked pretty high in terms of fullbacks. Blocks, decent as well, 1.36. Interceptions, 1.23. And then obviously tackles, 2.27. So defensively, it's funny because for a fullback, he would outrank most of these fullbacks anyway, because these are not the kind of metrics that you would necessarily associate with many fullbacks, obviously depending on the team and stuff like that. And then I understand even more so why you would then look at it and think, okay, even in regards to look at the progressive carries. Now, we saw for centre backs, it was really, really high, but for fullbacks, it's only at 43% in terms of percentile, where ranked against the other fullbacks out there. That already immediately shows you that, so against other fullbacks, but he's not a fullback. he is a centre back. He's a left-sided centre back who can play in that fullback area. So that's why I say you've got to just kind of look at it, so to speak. You just got to kind of judge it and depend on what it is that the manager's asking you to do and the type of role that you're going to potentially, have, in the team. Passes attempted 67.16 per 90. And then all this other boring stuff. Let's actually take a look at the fullbacks he'd be most similar like. Crazy Dan Burn, Mandava from Atletico Madrid, Joao Foyth, Aspilicueta, Joao Ward, Pascal Struijk, Yuri Bershish, Castagna, Matty Cash, Vincent Legoff. I like that name, Vincent Legoff. But yeah, those are the ones who are quite similar, but this is the kind of realm that he's now, kind of in. So that's why I said it is actually quite interesting to see up against centre backs. He ranks really, really well in the things that certain managers and certain people, fans alike, we all want to see is, we want this progressive guy. He could pass the ball, he could dribble, he could do this, he could do that. Yeah, against other centre backs, yeah, he looks all cute. But he put him up against fullbacks in an area that he does obviously play as well, doesn't really look as cute. So again, not say he can't do it, because clearly he can do it. When you put him up against other centre backs, yes, you can see that he can do it. But it's just about what type of role. And this is what I keep saying when it comes to Klopp. That's why now I'm looking at everything. It's almost, when you get like new information and it's just like everything that I was thinking before, I'm not even really thinking it too tough, because now I'm looking at Klopp and I'm like, what do you want? How about that? What do you want? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't even really understand what it is that you're kind of looking for, because I almost feel like you're signing one type of player, but then you're getting in a different type of player, and then you're using them quite differently within the squad. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like it's a little bit confusing, so to speak, and I can only imagine what it's like, for the players, so to speak. But if we take a look here, obviously at his style of play, I'm going to do a comparison, in a minute, but we'll just take a look quickly at his style of play. Xabi Alonso has actually described him as a very modern defender. He can play in different positions. He's aggressive, is making better decisions when he has the ball, backs himself more to play diagonal passes and obviously get in behind. Got a couple pictures here. Just in regards to that, playing those passes obviously in behind, you can see, boom, obviously him playing that ball into Adley. I think Adley then goes on to score, to be honest with you. But yeah, he mentions him being able to play different positions. This is him obviously playing in a back four. Look how high he is up. If you guys can obviously see on your screen, he is the furthest on the far side. It's almost like a bit of a box, to be honest with you, that they're playing in that back line. The centre backs are so split. I mean, they better be careful, if I'm being totally honest with you. I understand, obviously, this is how they've kind of got a box, and then they've got a triangle in the middle, obviously, then to use the central midfielders. This is where they come really into play. So I guess there's going to be a level of movement with those central midfielders, and then obviously the three kind of strikers, in there. But obviously on this right hand side, they've got Jeremy Frimpong, and then on the left hand side, they've got Hincapie, who's playing really high and really wide. Again, totally different to what he would be playing, if, for example, he was playing in this kind of system here, playing as that left-sided centre-back. Look at that, up against Szoboszlai. But again, playing in this kind of system where now you can see the back three, again, not so split, so to speak. There probably is a bit of a big gap, but obviously I don't know the passage of play in here, but you can see here how the three of them are kind of in a line. And then obviously you've got the, would I say, wing-back / midfielders, whatever you want to kind of call them, pushed up a little bit further, I think on the far side. I can't remember who it was actually on that right-hand side, but you can see Baka's obviously there just ahead of Hincapie. Just moving on, he's tenacious, comfortable with the ball at his feet, versatile and left-footed. Hincapie has a lot in common with Bayern Munich counterpart Lucas Hernandez, statistically, at least for slide tackles, aerial challenges, and passes to a man. In 22-23, he's even ahead of the France 2018 World Cup defender. Which is actually quite interesting, as we obviously saw, with quite a lot of the stills. You can see these are the kind of positions, again, when he's playing sometimes in that left wing back position, or even left-sided centre back position, where he can do both. At times he may need to actually push up, more so when he's playing as a traditional left back or as the left wing back, depending on the formation. Again, just because they might play three at the back, he might not even be the one of the three. He could actually be pushed further forward. And you can see, obviously, this is them last season, I believe, in the Europa League against Roma. And you can see how high he's actually pushed up, into his actual position. And then obviously sometimes he's got to sit a little bit deeper as well. You can see here, this is him actually playing in the left wing back position for Bayern Leverkusen, but he's got to sit a little bit deeper. He has got to sit just a tad bit deeper, just because obviously I think they're kind of playing more as a four at the back here. So yes, push up, but not so far forward where you're almost playing as like the attacking midfield, the attacking left winger, because of course that will leave the team quite isolated. By simplifying his game both in and out of possession, he not only reduces the chances of a suicidal turnover in the defensive third, but he also raises the chances that both his teammates and manager feel comfortable relying on him in matches of significant magnitude. In defensive phases, Hincapie is a front-footed and aggressive defender. Obviously, you can see here, they ain't lying. They really, really ain't lying. This guy is, like I said, to me, he reminds me of exactly like Konate, where they're very, very aggressive. When it does come to that defending, sometimes it's touch tight. And when it is touch tight, it's too touch tight because now you're doing all of that, but then you might give away, a free kick potentially. And it's like, did you need to do that? Is that what we're looking for? Obviously, you can see here is a touch tight defender who frequently contests in duels in wide areas. Again, he's comfortable enough to do it. It's just I worry at times him doing so. And again, obviously as well, when you do things like that, it might leave gaps. Obviously, we can see here with the picture here anyway. How many duels he's obviously contesting over there on that left hand side, and he's obviously contesting quite a lot. Which you can say is fine in one sense, but sometimes if you're not winning the majority of those, that will inevitably become a problem. And obviously, you can see here lose possession here in certain areas where you want to be a little bit too touch tight. If you lose possession, remember we're going back the other way, bro. Like you lose possession, it's kind of piss now. Do you know what I mean? So this is where you just need, and he's a lot more adventurous than a Konate because he actually gets himself forward. He's like the Robbo, so it's that high risk, high reward kind of thing. Again, that might just be manager stylistically, but he is like that anyway in terms of how he likes to defend. I don't think that's a manager thing. I think he's always been like that, even when he's playing for Ecuador and stuff like that. He's like that when he's playing back in South America. That's what he likes to do. So I don't even think it's too much on the manager. I think the manager will just say, well, listen, as long as you do it in the right areas and it's not going to cost us too much, then do you know what I mean? I think we can kind of get away with that. We'll take a look here. All right, cool. Hopefully this pops up on your damn screen. So I want to take a look at him up against a couple of left-sided centre-backs, just random ones I wanted to choose. I wanted to pick ones. So obviously we've got Virgil van Dijk. I picked one, Liverpool one, makes sense. We wanted to do Vardio as well, Nathan Ake and Schlotterbeck. I felt like let's put him up against, these are obviously all the top ones that I can think of off the top of my head. No point me putting him up against Lukiba and all these other guys. That's all long. How does our centre back, that if this is the guy that you're trying to sign, how does he compare to the best ones out there? Because if he's not comparing to these guys in certain metrics and certain attributes, then what's the point? Do you really want someone like that? Do you get what I mean? It's all well and good when you can compare him to the runt of the litter, which a lot of us do. Even myself, sometimes when I'm comparing some of these players, I'm comparing him to similar players of that kind of level, and he just pips it, kind of thing. You put Lavia up against some players of his level, he looks amazing. Do you know what I mean? Let's put him up against the big dogs. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Well, how does he look against the big dogs? Because ultimately, those are the players I want at this football club. I don't want just anybody, just for the sake of signing someone. If that's the case, then I'd rather you just didn't sign anybody. And these are the ones I felt performed really, really well, last season. You can see here touches per game. Last season, 79. Everybody else actually out, they completely go, which is a bit crazy when I think about it. You could say style, context of thing, but with the positions that he's taken up, I would expect maybe a little bit more, but fair enough. And ball recoveries, he is third on this list. Top is obviously Schlotterbeck, and then next is Vardio, but he's ahead of Van Dijk and Nathan Ake. Maybe that could just be because of the teams and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Passes attempted though, he's actually the lowest on this list, which again I found quite interesting. But is that because he likes to progress the ball forward more than he actually likes to pass the ball? So again, just depends on the context of what we're looking for and what he's being asked to do in the team, so to speak. But pass attempted is only at 61. Everyone else is on 80, apart from actually Schlotterbeck is on 75.5. 4. But this is where Vardiol obviously exceeds everybody. Passes completed 50 per game. Passing accuracy obviously at 83%. Van Dijk at 90. Nathan Ake at 91. I'd expect that. 89 for Vardiol and 86 for Schlotterbeck. Long passes attempted. Again, quite interesting. He attempts 5.8 per 90 minutes. You know, Vardiol again is attempting 10. Nathan Ake isn't attempting that much. Again, context, because we know that's not really how Manchester City play. They're not a hoof it type of team. Accuracy, anyways, at 36%. Again, really, really low. Really, really, really low. And it's mad. It's actually mad because these times, you know, Nathan Ake isn't even making that many. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But his is, again, still quite low, but fair enough. You know, it is what it is in that sense. Passing in opposition half, I would have expected this to be more because of the positions that he takes up. But again, am I going to contribute? Is it going to keep me in context? Nah. Sometimes it's these are the guys that man's got to compare with at the end of the day. Do you get what I mean? So that's how I'm going to kind of look at it. So up against these guys, the real ballers of the left side of centre back kind of era. Yeah, not really that good. Forward passes, obviously 23, not too far off of Van Dijk. But Quay off and Nathan Ake. Anything else to read? Jules contested. This is where he obviously excels in front of everybody. He's making 10 point. He's contesting 10.3 per game. But tackles made per game, he's making 1.9, which puts him in second place. With these guys, take-ons completed. Again, this puts him in second place, just behind Vardiol. Take-on success, you can see here, is at 48%. So that's a little bit. I'm not going to count Van Dijk because this was because this is only 0.1. So Van Dijk and who's that? Nathan Ake, in terms of their take-on success, you know, again, is when we're looking at those two types of defenders, they're quite different in a sense. Obviously, Van Dijk is a left-sided centre back for Liverpool, and obviously Ake for City. One's left-footed, one's right-footed. We know with someone like a Van Dijk, what he likes to do is that bloody crossfield ball over to Salah, and then we kind of move. Nathan Ake is more of a pass it kind of guy. He's going to move the ball around a bit more than, obviously, again, stylistically, because of the team that he's obviously playing for. Obviously, this is where Hincapie is when we're comparing him. We can see a lot of reds in comparison to the other guys. Ground duels contested 6.4. You know, he's beating everyone there. 1. You know, he's beating everyone in that kind of metric there. But, you know, when we're looking at clearances, interceptions, and blocks, you know, again, he's kind of falling a little bit in behind everybody. And as an overall, when you compare him to the top other left-sided centre-backs, he doesn't really compare, if I'm being totally honest with you. He'd rank bottom of this list. If you told me you can sign any one of these guys, he'd be bottom of that list, 100%. Then you'd probably go, if I need a left-sided centre-back, you'd probably go Verge, Vardiol, Ake, Schlotterbeck, and then Hincapie would come in last. So again, that's not to throw shade on Hincapie, by the way. That's not to say, he's dead or whatever. I'm just comparing him to the ones I consider to be, you know, the top left-sided centre-backs or left-sided players, you know, so to speak. Schlotterbeck, obviously, more so, he can play, obviously, left back, left wing back as well, kind of thing. So I'm just looking at it as a whole, and that's where I'm just like, remember, there's no point me comparing him to the runt of the litter. There's just literally no point, because then it's just like, well, anybody's gonna look good, you know, in those kind of circumstances. So yeah, that was kind of just my thinking behind it. But obviously, we took a little look at Hincapie. Let me know, obviously, what you guys think about Hincapie as an overall, obviously, with what's available in the market. I'm gonna say I feel Liverpool need one. That's just more what I want and what I think we need. I'm really not comfortable with Robertson in that position. I think he's quite poor in that position. And I think we need to upgrade very, very fast in that position. So let me know, obviously, what you guys think. Do we need to upgrade? Who do you guys want to see us go out there and sign? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm G, and we are out.